Attempts at controlling language are nothing more than an attempt to control people's minds. Now, the reason for banning certain words from being used seems to be because they're about certain topics that people find to be unclean or improper. Now, in certain settings, you don't want to bring up certain topics, but to say that a word itself is bad and shouldn't be used is saying that a topic shouldn't be talked about. And how can you tell someone not to talk about a certain thing? Or not to think about a certain thing? Now, what is profanity anyway? I'm looking at dictionary.com right now, which means I'm not walking at the moment, and the definition is as follows: characterized by irreverence or contempt for God or sacred principles or things, irreligious. Now, they have the capital G God here, so I think it's safe to assume that they mean the Bible God. Otherwise, they would say for a God. Not devoted to holy or religious purposes, unconsecrated, secular. Ah, that's an interesting one. Secular. So, a pencil is profane. That's interesting. Unholy, heathen, pagan. Not initiated into religious rites or mysteries as persons. So if you aren't a member of a religion, you are profane. Common or vulgar. Now, the fifth one, I think, the common or vulgar definition, is the one that I think is generally referred to when profanity is forbidden as a rule by a non-religious organization or person, or even just talked about in normal language. People don't generally argue, oh, that's profane, if something isn't religious. Then let's look up vulgar. Let's see. Characterized by ignorance of or a lack of good breeding or taste, indecent, obscene, lewd, crude, coarse, unrefined, of, pertaining to, or constituting, wow, okay, I didn't say that, or constituting the ordinary principle in a society, the vulgar masses. That kind of seems like a arrogant definition. Current, popular, common. Spoken by or being in the language spoken by the people generally. Lacking in distinction, aesthetic value, or charm. Banal, ordinary. Now, aesthetic value is really in the eye of the beholder. There's no absolute aesthetic value. Now, what I'm trying to get at here is whether or not profanity is a religious idea, and whether it is or not, if it is designed, or if the purpose of it is to discourage sexual thought or action. Because I think that in order that by forbidding certain words to be used, certain groups are trying to rule the country. They're trying to control the minds of the masses, the vulgar masses, who don't all agree on the same thing. And I think there are a lot of groups out there who don't like being disagreed with, a lot of individuals who don't like being disagreed with. And the more I look into this, the more clear it becomes to me that the secular idea of profanity is nothing more than snobbery. People thinking that the differences between them and other people make them better than them. And as we all know, this is a very old idea. This is something that religions have been doing. People have been doing this long before religion. The idea that you are better than somebody else. We're all guilty of it at one time or another, whether we're atheist or Christian or Muslim or Jewish or anything. But not dead. I guess dead people don't really make that judgment. But if you're alive, there's a good chance that you could be guilty of this. But where does this idea come from? Why do we want to think that we're better than others? I find that low self-esteem is often overcompensated for. And so I think people who are prone to thinking they're better than other people actually don't think very much of themselves. So they're overcompensating by comparing themselves to other people. And the separation of language into proper and improper is just a way for people to say, I don't talk like this. I don't use these words. I use these other words. You use those words, therefore you are not as good as I am. But in their heart of hearts, they believe that they really are as bad as they're saying that the other people are. We hate about others what we hate about ourselves. And so they look at other people with the inferiority that they see in themselves.